The air in the old room smells of mothballs and dust, a dense scent that suffocates like a wet blanket. Helena stands there, motionless, her thin fingers brushing the dusty frame of a faded photograph. The smile in the picture is her mother's, young, vibrant, an echo of laughter that time has silenced. Outside, life pulses. Car horns sound like distant calls. But for Helena, the world stopped the day that smile faded. She refuses to move a single piece of furniture, to part with a single trinket. Each object is a reliquary, an invisible anchor that ties her to a port that no longer exists. It's as if her very breath depends on the preservation of that untouchable past. A heavy burden she carries with the same resignation of someone bearing a treasure. How can one break free when one's very identity seems intertwined with the shadows of what was? The soft melody of an old radio fills the room, a song Helena and her mother used to sing together. The elephant emerges as a living monument to memory. Both, despite their distinct natures and the millions of years of evolution separating them, demonstrate an innate capacity for attachment and a visceral response to loss, to absence. Neuroscience reveals that the human brain, like the elephant's, possesses complex structures such as the hippocampus, crucial for the formation of new memories and spatial navigation, and the amygdala, an emotional processing center that acts as the brain's alarm system. Both are responsible for the formation and retrieval of emotional memories, especially those linked to significant events. Helena's persistent pain, the way she incessantly revisits the past, echoes how the elephant retains and honors its losses, perpetuating the memory of those who are gone, as if fearing that forgetting would be a betrayal. This connection is not merely a poetic metaphor. It is rooted in our biology, suggesting that many of our emotional behaviors, such as attachment and grief, are resonances of ancestral instincts, survival patterns shared with other species that also navigate the complexity of existence and finitude. It is proof that, deep down, we are all beings capable of feeling and remembering. A wise giant whose experiences are etched into every fiber of its being. With its colossal and intricate brain, weighing up to 5 kilograms, the largest among terrestrial animals, it retains not only ancient migratory routes and the location of scarce water sources in severe droughts, but also the faces and bonds of its kin. Herds of female elephants are led by matriarchs, whose accumulated experience and knowledge over decades are vital for the group's survival in a challenging and constantly changing environment. The loss of a family member, especially a matriarch, is an event that reverberates throughout the entire herd with an almost human intensity, a collective sorrow that echoes for miles. Elephants gather in moving mourning rituals, touching the bones of the deceased with their sensitive trunks, emitting low vocalizations, infrasounds that travel long distances, as if lamenting the absence, a symphony of pain and longing that connects them all. This profound connection with their ancestors and the collective memory of the herd are essential for the perpetuation of their species, shaping their social behaviors, survival strategies, and remarkable adaptability. A vocal duet that now echoed only in her memory, bringing with it the sweetness and agony of a time gone by. Helena's tear-filled eyes fixate on the bookshelf, crammed with books and photo frames, each one a time capsule, a fragment of lived moments that refuse to fade, to surrender to the relentless passage of years. The scent of chamomile tea, the same one her mother used to prepare with loving, trembling hands on rainy afternoons, floods the air, accentuating the sensation of an absent, almost palpable presence enveloping her in an invisible embrace. A solitary tear rolls down her face, tracing a damp path amidst the dust accumulating on her skin, a physical reminder of the stagnation that consumes her. The pain of loss, a burden she carries daily like a second skin, manifests as a tightness in her chest, a shortness of breath that prevents her from moving forward, from freely breathing the air of the present. With every attempt to reorganize her life, to take a step towards the future, the avalanche of memories paralyzes her, forcing her back into the bitter comfort of stagnation. A safe haven built from nostalgia and regret. She has become the guardian of a past that imprisons her, a voluntary prisoner in a museum of memories. In the vast and untamed realm of the African savanna, the parallel between Helena's deep melancholy and the observable grief in elephants is striking in its depth and resonance. Helena, suffocated by the dense atmosphere of her own memories, feels the urgent need to break the cycle, to free herself from the shackles of the past, but with every step, the weight of melancholy drags her back into inertia, into the illusory safety of the known. It's a silent confrontation, an internal battle where reason whispers the need to move forward, to embrace the new, while instinct, rooted in the pain of loss and the familiarity of suffering, pulls her back to the illusory comfort of the known. The elephant, in its grief, must also move on, find new food and water sources, even if the memory of the loved one remains a constant shadow, a presence that accompanies every step. Both, human and animal, must find a delicate balance between honoring what was, acknowledging the pain of absence, and adapting to what is, to the undeniable reality of the present, between the pain of remembrance and the imperative urgency of survival. Life, in its essence, is movement and transformation. The essence of living lies not in erasing what was, in sweeping memories under the rug of oblivion, but in learning to carry memories with wisdom, transforming them into learning, into strength, and into resilience. Understanding that the persistence of pain can be a manifestation of a deep instinct for attachment, similar to that of the elephant, allows us to embrace our vulnerability, accept our human condition, and, paradoxically, find the strength for detachment, for liberation. Our deepest emotions are reflections of life's complex tapestry, interconnecting us with all existence, with all sentient beings. They are a reminder that we are not alone in our emotional journey. What is the weight of your memories? Are they anchors that hold you to the inertia of the past, or wings that propel you towards the challenges of the future? The old photo album lay open on Helena's lap, the time-yellowed images telling the story of distant summers at her grandmother's house. Our masters are remembering winding trails, hidden water sources, and abundant feeding grounds along their vast migratory routes that can stretch for hundreds of kilometers. In times of extreme drought, when their usual water sources dry up and the ground cracks under the scorching sun, the matriarch, the oldest and most experienced in the herd, is able to guide the group over long distances to an oasis they haven't visited for decades. Relying solely on ancestral memory, a mental map inherited and refined over generations. This ability to retain precise information about the environment and resources is vital for the species' survival in a dynamic and often unpredictable ecosystem, where a single mistake can be fatal. They also remember specific predators, past dangerous situations, and transmit this knowledge through generations, creating a kind of collective database that ensures the herd's continuity, a living library of experiences and strategies. The attachment to these trails of the past is not emotional in the human sense, but rather a highly efficient survival strategy, an instinct of self-preservation. A time that seemed lighter, happier, enveloped in a golden veil of nostalgia. She traced her fingers over the rough paper, and with each touch, a wave of smell, sounds, and sensations invaded her with an almost hallucinatory intensity. The sweet aroma of freshly baked cornmeal cake, which her grandmother would pull from the oven. The joyous sound of laughter in the backyard that seemed to fill the world, and the soft, familiar texture of the sofa fabric where they would snuggle to tell stories of fairies and dragons. Helena couldn't bring herself to part with anything that belonged to her grandmother. Not the chipped cup they drank coffee from together, not the crocheted dress kept in the lavender-scented closet, not even the old letters with her grandmother's elegant handwriting, penned in faded ink. The house, once vibrant and full of life, had become a sanctuary of objects, each one clamoring for her attention, for its permanence, trapping her in a tangle of memories that prevented her from creating new ones, from living in the present. Her routine was dictated by attachment. The same coffee in the same cup, gazing out the same window at the rain, all to avoid the discomfort and anxiety of the new, of change, of uncertainty. Elephants, with their proverbial memories that rival human ones in precision and longevity. The similarity between Helena's rigidity regarding her environment and the elephant's fidelity to its roots is not accidental, although their motivations differ. Feels paralyzed, a statue of pain and indecision, her heart heavy. Just as the elephant, at times, needs to create new trails to survive, we too are called to detach from old paths, be they physical, emotional, or mental. The ability to honor the past without becoming its prisoner, to acknowledge its influence without allowing it to dictate the future, is the key to true freedom and personal growth. After all, life happens in the present, and the future is built with every new step. Where are your trails leading you? Are you following a familiar and safe path that perhaps no longer serves you? Or are you bravely and curiously exploring the unknown in search of new opportunities? Every object seems to scream, demanding her attention, begging not to be forgotten, to remain in its rightful, untouched place. It's a fierce struggle between reason, which says she must move forward, let go of what no longer serves her, and emotion, which traps her in nostalgia, in the memory of those who are gone, in a suffocating embrace. The elephant, in turn, may be forced to abandon a familiar and safe trail due to sudden deforestation or a new human construction blocking its path, breaking centuries of instinct. It must then choose between the security of the known and the uncertainty of a new path, a decision that can determine the herd's survival in a hostile and unpredictable environment. In both cases, there is a direct confrontation with the inertia of habit and the vital need for adaptation, for flexibility. Both demonstrate a form of attachment to established patterns, to known paths, albeit for divergent purposes. In the human case, attachment to objects and routines can be an unconscious attempt to replicate a sense of security and familiarity associated with a past perceived as happier, safer, or less threatening, a way to avoid the unknown and the inherent fear of change. Psychologically, the persistence of certain routines and the accumulation of objects can be a response to trauma or loss, where control over the physical environment and its memories becomes a defense mechanism, a barrier against vulnerability and pain. Just as the elephant relies on its geographical memories for the survival of its species, Helena, unconsciously, seeks a compass in the past to navigate the present, even if that compass leads her to a dead end, to a stagnant life without hope of renewal. Helena, confronted with the pressing need to clear out her grandmother's house for an inevitable renovation, life imposes on us a constant dance between the familiar and the new, between permanence and change. The shrill ringing of the telephone startled her, an abrupt sound that broke the heavy silence of the room and pulled her from her reverie. It was her ex-husband's number, the same one who had caused years of suffering, sleepless nights, and silent tears she thought she had overcome. Helena froze, cold sweat trickling down her neck, her hands damp and trembling. Despite the time that had passed, the memory of heated arguments, the hurtful words that diminished her, and the pain of betrayal still burned like open wounds, refusing to heal, to close. She felt shrunken again, powerless, reliving every moment of that toxic relationship as if trapped in an endless loop, a private horror movie playing on repeat. The scent of his cologne, the sound of his voice that once soothed her and now terrified her. Everything seemed to permeate the air of her living room, even though he wasn't there. She kept a box of mementos at the back of a dusty drawer, movie tickets from past dates, letters with empty declarations of love, a small teddy bear he had given her for a birthday. She knew she should get rid of them, burn them, throw them away, but an invisible force held her back, a masochistic emotional attachment that bound her to that painful past, to a familiar pain that, in some strange way, felt safer than the emptiness and uncertainty of the unknown. Elephants are incredibly sensitive animals with an emotional complexity that we are still discovering. And like humans, they can suffer from profound traumas that permanently affect their psyche and behavior. Detailed observations in sanctuaries and wild environments reveal that elephants who witnessed brutal massacres of their herds, who saw their calves killed by poachers, or who were subjected to prolonged mistreatment in captivity, exhibit behaviors reminiscent of post-traumatic stress disorder in humans. They may experience uncontrollable tremors, unexpected and unprovoked aggression, deep apathy, and even vivid flashbacks, reacting to triggers that remind them of the traumatic event, such as the sound of a distant gunshot or the presence of specific humans who resemble their tormentors. Their vivid memories, which normally aid their survival, resource location, and social cohesion, can become an overwhelming burden, perpetuating suffering and hindering emotional recovery, trapping them in a past of pain. The persistence of trauma in Helena, which paralyzes her in a mere phone ring, and the PTSD-like behavior observed in traumatized elephants, lacerated between what she knows rationally and what she feels emotionally. But understanding that our instincts can perpetuate this suffering is the crucial first step towards liberation. Just as the elephant needs time, safety, and a supportive environment to heal its emotional wounds and relearn to trust, we too need to acknowledge and validate our pain, embrace it, to finally break free from it and move forward. Memory, though powerful and essential to our identity, does not have to be a sentence, a perpetual condemnation to pain. It can be a guide, a lesson. What do you choose to do with your scars? Do they define you, or are they part of your story of overcoming, a testament to your strength? A rational mind knows the relationship is over, that he can no longer physically harm her. But her body, her emotional memory, reacts as if the danger were imminent, as if he were there, in the same room, ready to hurt her again. She must make a crucial decision, answer and relive the pain, plunge back into the abyss of the past, or allow herself to break the cycle, ignore the call, and seek the freedom to detach from this web of suffering. The elephant, when confronted with a trauma trigger, also has to choose between instinctive flight, the fight-or-flight response inherent in its biology, or confronting the memory, often with consequences for its safety and that of the herd. The struggle between the instinctive response to trauma and the capacity for conscious processing is a universal dilemma, transcending species barriers and confronting us with our own nature, reveal a deep and intrinsic connection between memory and pain. In both cases, the brain, in a primitive and perhaps misguided effort to protect the individual from future dangers, keeps painful memories in a constant state of readiness, reactivating them easily in response to any trigger related to the traumatic experience. Neuroscience suggests that the limbic system, a set of brain structures responsible for emotions, motivation, and memory, is hyperactivated in traumatic situations, creating a vicious cycle of fear, anxiety, and avoidance. This leads to a constant re-experiencing of the pain. Just as the elephant will relive the pain and dread upon hearing a sound familiar to its trauma, Helena feels imprisoned by a pain that refuses to leave, a memory that acts like an invisible shackle, binding her to a past she desperately tries to forget, but which insists on making itself present. The phone continues to ring, persistently, and Helena finds herself torn. The weight of a painful past can trap us in a web of suffering, in a labyrinth of pain and regret. Helena spends hours, browse old profiles on social media, like a digital archaeologist unearthing fossils from a lost time, a time she idealizes. She looks at photos of friends from her youth, smiling faces she no longer sees, and past romances that left deep marks on her soul. She constantly compares herself, idealizes a time that no longer exists, laments the choices, the twists of fate that separated her from certain people, from certain possibilities that might have been. Unsent messages accumulate in her drafts, the burning desire to reconnect clashing with the paralyzing fear of rejection, or the disappointment of discovering that nothing is as it was. That time has changed everyone. She gradually isolates herself, preferring the fantastical company of memories to the uncertainty of new encounters, to the unpredictability of human relationships, which demand vulnerability and acceptance. The dining table, once filled with laughter, shared meals, and lively conversations that stretched late into the night, now echoes with silence, filled only by her own recollections, by the ghosts of a past that embrace her in a chilling comfort. Elephants are profoundly social beings, with a complex structure of clans and families, living in intricate, hierarchical herds that can last for decades, even an entire lifetime. Their family bonds are intense and enduring, based on an intricate communication network that involves various vocalizations, touches with their trunks, and scents that identify each individual within the group. The loss of a herd member is not just an event of grief, but also a significant imbalance in the social structure, which can take years to reestablish, affecting the group's behavior and dynamics. They remember individuals for years, recognizing them even after long separations, a capacity that defies human comprehension and highlights the strength of their social memories. This social memory is crucial for group cohesion and for the transmission of vital knowledge across generations, such as food location, danger identification, and the accumulated wisdom of the matriarch. They demonstrate moving empathy, comforting each other in moments of distress, reinforcing the importance of bonds for the group's survival and well-being, a true community that supports each other. Helena's attachment to the broken bonds of the past, which prevents her from forming new connections and opening up to the present, mirrors the profound sociability of elephants. Excessive attachment to the past can prevent us from building new bridges, from strengthening bonds in the present, and from embracing the future with hope. Our memories are important. They are our history, the foundation of who we are, but they cannot rob us of the ability to create new ones, to live in the now, to build new narratives. Learning from the elephant to value connections, to seek community, to interact with the world, is a path to fullness and to overcoming loneliness. How are you nurturing your relationships? Are you building new bridges or isolating yourself on islands of nostalgia, surrounded only by echoes of what was, while life happens out there? But with a dangerous distortion. While elephants use their social memory to strengthen the herd, ensure survival, and perpetuate the species, Helena allows nostalgia and fear to isolate her, to trap her in a bubble of loneliness, distancing her from the real world. Evolutionary psychology suggests that our innate need for belonging and social connection is a trait inherited from our ancestors, who depended on community for survival and safety in a dangerous world. When this need is frustrated by significant losses or the inability to connect, the human mind can cling to what was, seeking to replicate a sense of security and acceptance not found in the present, in a vicious cycle. The human brain craves connections, meaningful interactions, a sense of belonging, and in the absence of new ones, it may relive old ones, even if it means living in an emotional limbo, trapped in a cycle of idealization and longing that prevents progress. Helena receives an invitation to a reunion with old school friends, a group that meets annually to celebrate memories of the past. The invitation places her in a profound dilemma. Go and confront the present, the reality of how people have changed and how time has transformed them, or invent a flimsy excuse to remain in her safe refuge of memories, avoiding reality. She finds herself caught between the desire to relive the glorious past and the fear that reality will not match the idealization, that the disillusionment will be even greater when she sees that life has moved on for everyone but her. Just like an elephant separated from its herd that must decide whether to seek a new group, risking the unknown in acceptance or isolate itself, facing the dangers of loneliness and vulnerability, Elena faces the choice between the illusory security of isolation and the risk of opening herself to new experiences, to the real life that pulsates outside her bubble. Resilience lies in the ability to adapt, to forge new bonds, to reinvent oneself, even when old ones break. Humans, like elephants, are social beings by nature, programmed for connection and community. Helena planned her life based on an ideal future she meticulously mapped out in her youth. The perfect marriage with the love of her life, a brilliant career in a prestigious multinational corporation, the dream house with a lush garden and a shimmering pool. Reality, however, consistently deviated from her projections, from her imaginary scripts, and every deviation, every unexpected obstacle, was a source of profound frustration and disillusionment, a blow to her idealized world that brought her crashing down. She clung to a predetermined script, to a map that no longer corresponded to life's changing landscape, refusing to accept life's twists and turns, destiny's surprises, the new possibilities that arose. The musty smell of an old self-help book, promising a perfect future if one followed certain rules and patterns, reminded her how trapped she still was by old ideas, by expectations that suffocated her and prevented her from living, from being happy in the now. Her energy was spent trying to fit life into a mold that no longer served her, in forcing reality to bend to her past desires. Instead of adapting and finding happiness in what truly is, in the imperfect and real present, elephants, despite their longevity and the strength of their memory, are masters of adaptation, an essential quality for survival in challenging environments. In periods of extreme drought, when their usual water sources dry up and the ground cracks under the scorching sun, they are capable of digging deep wells in dry riverbeds, using their powerful trunks and feet, revealing remarkable intelligence and resilience, an ability to innovate to survive. They adjust their migratory routes in response to climate change, human pressure, and resource availability, showing remarkable flexibility in an environment that is constantly changing. The matriarch's wisdom lies not just in remembering the past, in accessing the herd's ancestral knowledge of where to find water and food, but in using that knowledge to adapt to the present, to make strategic decisions and ensure the herd's survival in the future, even if it means deviating from known and safe paths. They instinctively understand that life demands fluidity. Helena's rigid attachment to her past expectations and the elephant's capacity for adaptation revealed two extremes of the relationship with time and change, which perfectly fit her idealized life plan since adolescence, felt desolate, her heart heavy, and her hope drained. She needed to decide whether to persist in a search that might no longer be realistic, on a path that was leading her to exhaustion and constant frustration, or to open herself to new possibilities, even if they led her far from what she had always envisioned for herself into the uncertain. The elephant, facing the relentless drought, must decide whether to insist on searching for water in already depleted areas, risking the lives of the entire herd, or to trust the matriarch's intuition and experience to find a new oasis, a risk that could save or condemn the herd. The choice between attachment to a plan and the flexibility to adapt is the crucial point, the crossroads that defines the destiny of both, a turning point. The psychology of attachment to the past, in many cases, is linked to a deep fear of the unknown and an inability to deal with the uncertainty inherent in existence. The human mind, in its quest for security and control, creates scripts, idealizes scenarios, and when life doesn't follow these scripts, the frustration can be immense, the pain of misalignment, agonizing, leading to paralysis and suffering. On the other hand, the elephant's adaptability shows us that survival, both physical and emotional, lies in the ability to be flexible with expectations, to let go of rigid plans, and to embrace the flow of life, its twists and turns and surprises. Our brain, with its capacity for planning and projecting the future, can trap us if we don't learn to deal with the reality that life is unpredictable and that the only constant is change, impermanence. Helena, after another frustrated attempt to get her dream job, life is a river that never stops flowing, and trying to dam it with rigid expectations, to force it to follow a predetermined course, can lead to frustration and suffering. The elephant's wisdom teaches us that true strength lies not in rigidity, in stubbornly maintaining a path that no longer serves, but in the ability to adapt, to dig new wells, to find new paths when old ones run dry or become unfeasible. Attachment to the past, in its most rigid and inflexible form, can be an insurmountable obstacle to growth and happiness. It can prevent us from seeing the new opportunities that life offers. Are you swimming against the current of your idealized expectations, or allowing yourself to flow with life, accepting its unexpected turns and the new landscapes it presents to you? An envelope forgotten at the bottom of a drawer, beneath piles of old, dusty papers, revealed a time-yellowed letter. An exchange opportunity in her youth that Helena never took because of a paralyzing fear of leaving her mother alone, which is central to their survival, are also capable of detachment in an instinctive and wise manner. When a herd member dies, the grief is profound. Manifestations of pain are evident, and they may even return to the site of the loved one's death for days. However, at some point, the herd must move on, seeking food and safety, ensuring the continuity of life and the group's survival. Matriarchs, in their final years, weakened by age or illness, may move away from the group to die alone. A form of detachment that protects the herd from the pain of witnessing their decline and allows a new leadership to flourish naturally, without the matriarch's shadow, ensuring the group's renewal and strength. This ability to let go, to allow life to take its natural course, to accept finitude and impermanence, is an essential component of their wisdom and resilience, ensuring the species' continuity in an eternal cycle of life and death, of abandoning her in a moment of fragility. A flicker of regret, a painful "what if?" echoed in her mind, louder than ever, questioning the choices of an entire lifetime. She realized the overwhelming weight of unmade choices, of opportunities lost due to excessive attachment, due to an irrational fear of the new and unknown, which prevented her from flying. The environment around her, once a safe haven of memories, now felt like a prison, a claustrophobic enclosure of objects and recollections that suffocated her, that prevented her from breathing freely. The smell of mold and stagnation became unbearable, an odor that permeated her pores and her soul, signaling the urgent need for change. An inner voice, once muffled by the noises of the past, now screamed. She decided it was time to breathe new air, to break free, to open the windows and let the sun in. Elephants, despite their strong attachment to family bonds and the strength of their memory, Helena's epiphany about lost opportunities and the elephant's intrinsic wisdom in detaching, even from the strongest bonds and most cherished memories. She got rid of objects that no longer served her, that brought no joy, donated clothes she didn't wear, organized books that once oppressed her with their weight and the expectations they represented. With each item that left, she felt a weight literally being lifted from her shoulders, a physical and emotional relief that made her breathe lighter. It was a painful process, filled with nostalgia and even some tears, but necessary and cathartic, leading her to healing. The elephant, by deciding not to return to a location where a massacre occurred, even if rich in resources, demonstrates a strategic detachment for survival, prioritizing the herd's safety and well-being over the familiarity of the terrain and the pain of memory. Helena's choice to detach is an act of self-preservation, a way to free herself from what tied her to the past and prevented her from living fully, from embracing the future with hope and openness. Reveal the essence of true freedom, but the ability to carry it with us, to honor it, to learn from it, without letting it drag us backward, into stagnation and suffering. Learning from the elephant that detachment, in its wisest and most instinctive form, is an act of love for ourselves, for our well-being, and for the future that unfolds full of possibilities. Our memories are invaluable treasures. They are part of who we are, but they should not become prisons, chains that prevent us from flying. What are you willing to let go of to take flight, to free yourself and embrace life in its entirety? Excessive attachment, even if motivated by love, loyalty, or a deep sense of responsibility, can become an invisible shackle, hindering personal growth and the exploration of new possibilities, new paths. Psychology teaches us that detachment is not an absence of love, not forgetfulness or indifference, but rather the ability to love what was without clinging to it, to value memories without allowing them to dominate the present and the future, without letting them steal your ability to live fully. The elephant, by allowing itself to die alone or by moving on after the loss of a loved one, shows an intuitive understanding of the cycle of life, of impermanence, and of the need for renewal, an ancient wisdom that guides it. Helena, in an act of courage and liberation that surprised her with its own strength, began to organize her house. True freedom is not the absence of the past, of memories.